Hello folks, welcome to our summer update on the trees that we've been working on this season. This is the zelkova that we started earlier in the season, and as you can see, the growth on this thing is just pretty much out of control. It's branched out all over the place, and we have lots and lots of shoots that are all over this tree that are getting a little bit too long and are going to be out of shape and make some issues for us if we let them keep going the way they are now. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to focus on ramification. What that's going to entail is basically going into this tree and taking all the long shoots and cutting them back to one or two sets of leaves. It's a fairly simple process. One of the things you want to remember, if you have any branches that you're wanting to use as a sacrifice branch to either close a wound or get some thickness on it for a primary branch or secondary branch or a tertiary branch, you want to leave those alone. That way more energy will get placed into those branches so that they will, in turn get longer and get thicker faster. We've got pretty much all of our primary branches and tertiary branches. There's only one sacrifice branch on this tree that I need, and it's to continue closing the large cuts that were in the rear of the tree that I made a few years back. So let's go ahead and get started. Basically what you do is just, for instance, this one here, let's just use this branch as an example since it's right here. This is actually the tip of the branch that is extended here. This is the new growth. You just come back in here with your scissors and you cut all this back off to two sets of leaves. There's another smaller one here. In order for this not to extend any further, let's go ahead and cut that one as well. And it's just a matter of going around the tree and taking all the long growth off that's not necessary and leaving one or two sets of leaves. Now, to be quite honest with you, this is actually the second time I've done this to this tree this growing season already. These giant leaves that you see on here are the first flush of growth. And these are almost as large as my hand. That's the first flush of growth that we've had this season, and those have now put out a second set of growing shoots, which are the ones that you see now. So I've already done this technique to this tree once this season already, and you can see it's just responded like, you can't stop me, and just put out a whole nother flush. So this is going to be an ongoing process for this tree from now on to develop, number one, ramification, and number two, to keep the compact shape of this tree. You can already start to see the basic outline of the tree, where it's going to be. I don't necessarily like to say it's a Japanese style, but you can kind of see it kind of has that isosceles triangle look going on to it. We got the lower branch, secondary branch, and it comes up to an apex. I'm going to be working on not making it such a dramatic triangulated shape, more so of a rounded crown shape. But in doing so, we have to employ this technique for either way. So we're just going to go ahead and go through this tree and cut all the unnecessary growth off. Anything like this, as you can see, these are outward growing, but if you see this one here, this is an upward growing branch. You want to go ahead and see, we'll take a look down here where the branch is growing from, number one. And this one's actually growing from a side shoot. Okay, so I can keep this one and use it to fill in another spot if I needed to, but there are so many other branches on this tree, I don't know that I'm going to need this. But if you see any that are growing straight up from the branch, just make sure you eliminate those completely. We want to keep everything growing horizontally. We don't want anything vertically or growing straight down. That kind of is not necessarily something good for the design of the tree. However, if you need something like that to fill in a void, you got to work with what you got. In my case, I don't really have that issue. As you can see, this thing is just exploded with growth all over the place. But we're just going to continue to spin. I always like to spin the tree around when I'm working on the tree and just check it out, look at the overall design, and see what I need to do with the tree. I don't look at it in just one dimension. I look at it in all three dimensions and try to come up with an idea of what I'm after with the tree. You can also, two sets of leaves is good to cut back to. If you need one that's a 3 set, that's fine. Or if you need one that's a 1 set, that's fine. Rule of thumb is 2 set. Again, rules are meant to be bent, and in some cases broken. Now this tree will probably respond again with putting out another complete flush of growth of leaves. Now, because this thing's still in the growing stage, and jeez, look at the size of this leaf. Let me show you these leaves. This tree has just reacted insanely. That is a full-grown leaf, even in the size of a full-grown zelkova. I mean, that thing's as big as my hand, and these are fine for right now. This thing's in a growing container, and it's doing exactly what it's designed to do: grow the tree, grow the branches. These big giant leaves like this give lots of energy to the tree, gives energy down to the roots, makes the tree overall a healthy tree, helps resist insect attack. So, you know, overall it's just something that you want. So I'm not worried about the size of the leaves of this tree until I've got the branches that I want and I've got the ramification that I want. Once we take it out of this growing container and put it in a bonsai pot, that's really when you get into leaf reduction. We'll get into some leaf trimming techniques to, you know, reduce the leaves that way as well. But compacting the root ball in a smaller container is also going to cause these leaves to get significantly smaller and more into scale with the total outline of the tree. Right now, like I said, I'm not worried about that. All I'm worried about is keeping this thing in check. And the way of doing that, like I said before, is just to cut all these growing shoots back to 2 sets of leaves. This one here. This crazy shoot that's growing up already also has this main shoot growing up, and I don't know if you can see it or not. I'll zoom in on it just so you can see this thing's just taken off immensely this year. It's going to kind of be hard to see in the midst of everything else. But this branch not only has this main growing shoot here, but if you look close, it's got secondaries coming out already that will make branches as well. So it is doing that all over this tree, so I'm kind of excited with that. What I'm going to do now is just continue on reducing the foliage on the tree, and when I get finished we'll come back to it, revisit. Alright, here we are after we have pretty much gotten all the new growth under control. Now mind you, like I said before, this is the second time that I've done this to this tree this season already. And I'll probably have to do it another 1 or 2 times after this as well. What I'm focusing on right now is not necessarily branch placement or, you know, exacting lines. What I'm doing now is just trying to keep the growth under control, and the more that I cut, the more ramification I'm going to get in the season. I just wanted to show you that this here is a sacrifice branch, so I've left it untouched. It will be removed at the end of this year. I have a large wound back here that I'm closing, and another one just below it, and this branch is actually in between those two. So the more energy I let into this branch and these leaves, the quicker these 2 wounds are going to heal completely. I've had a lot of back budding on the branch as well, or on the main trunk, I'm sorry, as well. And I wanted to leave a couple of them on here for you to see. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on these so you can see them a little better. This species in general, as well as all the rest of the Chinese elms and other forms of zelkova, they back bud profusely all over the place on the branch. Now if I was looking for a branch down here at this point, or even right here, then I could let these grow unchecked like a sacrificial branch, and then they would form a branch for the following growing season. Same thing goes with this one up here. You always want to make those considerations when you're working with these trees, and I've made a decision that I do not need any of these. So it's very simple. It's just a matter of grabbing hold of the shoot and pulling it off. It's very, very simple. They're still small. No harm done to the tree. The tree won't even notice them being gone. But I just wanted to kind of show you that even these trees that have been established for a few years, when you use these ramification techniques, will surprise you and pop buds where you wouldn't expect them to be. So sometimes you even get lucky, and those buds would pop where you needed a branch really bad. And then you would, of course, want to just go ahead and nurse that area and make sure that you allow those to grow freely and unchecked. Once they get to a certain caliber, you'd also want to go ahead and wire them as well. That way you get a little bit of movement in them before the branch sets. And that way you have some interest in the branch. And then you can work on these same ramification techniques there as well. That's pretty much it for now. And here's another one. There's just so many of them all over the place. You just snip them back to 1 or 2 sets of leaves. Not even sets, just 1 or 2 leaves in general per branch. And out of those 1 or 2 leaves, they'll have 2 more branches form. And you'll let them grow, and you cut those back, and then 2 more will form. And so far, I mean, we're not even in June yet. We're still in May. Matter of fact, it's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and my mother as well. I've done it twice so far on this tree since January, and I would be willing to bet I'll have to do it maybe another 2 times this year, which means I'm going to get 8 new branches per shoot. Per 1 shoot, 8 new branches in 1 season. That's some pretty tremendous ramification in a short amount of time. Fertilizing does a lot of this for me as well. Also, I'm a huge advocate of, like I said before, that the trident maple that we went to the nursery, I will not do anything to that tree other than fertilize it and let it grow for the next 2 years to develop enough roots to be able to employ enough energy into the tree to be able to have this kind of growth as I do. So this tree was potted in this. This is going on the 3rd growing season that this tree's been in this pot. And I think that has a lot to do with how fast my trees develop because the roots are established. You know, you leave them, you cut them back real hard, just like we did with the trident maple. Put them in a pot. It's a little bit large, a lot larger than what it belongs in. These are cement mixing tubs, plastic. Get them at home improvement centers. And first 2 years, I do nothing more than just fertilize and feed. The 3rd year is when I got my primary branches and everything wired up, which we did this basically at the beginning of the season. And now you see the growth that these things put out. And like I said, this is the 2nd time I've done these cuts this year. So we're going to leave it at that. I'm going to just keep on doing what I'm doing. Apparently I'm doing something right because my trees are reacting wonderfully to everything that I've shown you guys. Nothing I've done off screen is any different than what I show you guys when I shoot these videos. So I would say if you live in a similar climate to what I do and you utilize these same techniques, you're going to get similar results. So we'll just put this one back out on the bench, and we'll revisit this one maybe again in fall or shortly after leaf fall, and you'll be able to see the fruits of our labor. Thanks for watching.